I have no monologue, so welcome to Mudflood was Armageddon, formerly Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. The Golden Age is past. The earth is flat. The Bible is true. This is going to be hard for a lot of people. The thumbnail, it's a screenshot from Escape from Los Angeles. Mud flood, leprosy, the fire history of Los Angeles, everything is going to be wrapped up if you can have patience. I'm going to show the disclaimer. Be looking at a few different videos today, some going back to the Bel Air fire, where they talk about, it was a planned deception, it was planned failure. And there are a lot of pictures to go over. This might take a while, but you might like some of them. Starting with last night, this is the thumbnail. This the president's daughter utopia. This girl scratched Snake Plissken, and he believed he had a virus that was going to kill him, but it was only a fast-acting flu virus. Very telling, but he shut him down. We got to go the other way first, I think. Oh no, we're going to look at this first. Okay. So a Siamese cat exhibiting estropia. We're going to be looking at, stereo blindness and where does this come from? Why do some people have a wandering eye and most people don't? Still looking at the truth about albinism. 175 subscribers, and Annika did a wonderful job. But I just wanted to. It's always going to be XX female and XY male. That's just what they named them, but they got it all figured out, man. It's the eyeball thing. Is this something where in this reset, white people are albinos? And in the Bible, what's the only connection? When somebody gets albinism, I mean, leprosy. Oh my goodness, they turned white. That's the only clue you get from the unclean leprosy. Their skin turns white. What's the common connection between leprosy and the Old Testament? Their skin turns white. And what do all white people have? One of the 5 stages of albinism. We're going to get a lot into the fire of Los Angeles, and I made a mistake. I typed in Escape from New York because that's the program in my mind, that Kurt Russell series, the John Carpenter thing. Even though Escape from LA is minute for minute, if that's what you call entertainment or decoding, it's a gold mine. A gold mine. What if I could find the one I was at? These screenshot things, but been up there for 2 or 3 days, man. Let me go back to here. So, Snake Plissken, he thinks that the president lives is a corrupt theocracy of lies and terrors. John Carpenter's movie. When is this? 90s? Oh, we're going to be getting This was the first woman to ever graduate at the top of her class 2 years ago. 3 women, 48 men, 52 people qualified for that job. Okay, so they ran a data scan and they had this fragment of a Che Guevara type, and he's a badass, man. He wants to take over the world. They ran the data scan, found this fact. Utopia, the president's daughter, had been brainwashed by a Peruvian terrorist, a member of the Shining Path. That was referenced in Die Hard, wasn't it? Kissing that dove, he's going to bring the world to peace. You know, they always have their famous movie stars have a cleft lip, and you know it's a thing. But the percentage of famous people, and especially when in the art, oh, never mind. You know, anyway, they got the plutoxin virus, and he didn't know he was infected. It's a designer virus, he tells him. It's the wave of the future. Yeah, okay. Some people think decoding is hard. Sometimes it's not. Utopia fell for the Peruvian monster. Wanted to fight to stay free, he thought. You can't kill him. He goes, no, I have to. And I want to. When I was a member of the right wing militia type thing, this was my weapon of choice. This is a very inexpensive. It looks like a Ruger Mini 14 stainless. It's 223 3x9 power burst scope. I think I had that exact setup. I don't think it was from this movie though. Oh, the poor girl got brainwashed. And guess how they got to it at the end? This movie introduced transsexualism with Carjack Malone being played by the Grace, the woman that was a famous black actress. They got put in a lot of roles, man. In the Santa Anas, the night wind, they were going to ride in and save the day because that's what always happens. I almost used this as a precursor of like, what have we been looking at? These people that live in LA that right now you might, you know, whatever the videos come up that the Lord has, you know, we did a video started late last night, watched this movie, did a decode. Here they come. Hey, Eddie, is that what I think it is? Well, there's Carjack Malone. He was a wanted man, so he became the most drop dead gorgeous girl in LA. Steve Buscemi. Yeah, okay. And Kurt Russell flying in like the winged monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. Don't push the 6-6 button. That'll shut down the entire planet. Cuba was going to attack them in this movie. Everything we've accomplished in the last 500 years will be finished. All their technology, our way of life, our entire history. We can't lose the technology that is the culmination. And that's what I've been saying all the time. Let's lose the technology. I pray I'm talking to somebody right now that is a male virgin and a female virgin, and somehow they'll have a baby and it will be raised and never have a 5G signal go through its head, because we'll be living in the mountains. We'll be living in the caves. We'll be living in the spare us from the wrath that's going to come. And then her dad was about to execute Utopia because she's blasphemed the United States as being the dominant thing. And then she's so happy. He shut down the world. Boy, these Unitarian Christian Alliance, simply because somebody does not like the Trinity, does not mean they are normal. Don't need some. These guys here got some really sketchy things about. They don't believe in the Trinity, but they also don't believe that Jesus was God. Go figure. It's crazy. I didn't really understand what in the world he was talking about. But they're messed up here on this one contradictions in the book of Hebrews. In many and various ways, God spoke of old to our fathers by the prophets, but in these last days, he has spoken to us by a son, whom he appointed the heir of all things. Okay. Where's this contradict? So Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly waiting for him. You see, he still thinks this applies to him. These geniuses, they don't know the earth is flat. They don't know there's been an add 1,000 years. They think that, oh, well, he hasn't come back yet. They don't know that the mud flood, they don't even, maybe they don't even know what the mud flood is. It's this guy, which said that God has spoken to us through a son only in this last day. So there's an intentional obfuscation. That's not a correct quote of that scripture. He's spoken through the son in the last days, the only begotten, but they had plenty of warning. So let's look at this. The Rosicrucian Mask in Shakespeare. This will be a big part of the pictures too, I think, and the show. It's a lie. Shakespeare has been called the Rosicrucian Mask. Max Heindel is authority for the statement that the works which bear the name of Shakespeare and those that bear the name of Francis Bacon were influenced by the same Rosicrucian initiate. Other occult writers point toward a similar conclusion. Guardian of the Mysteries. You could kind of scan it or screenshot it or whatever. The works of Wagner, Gautier, Dante, they all are that divine wisdom. They're wrong God, though. So the highlighted part here said no one familiar with esoteric doctrines can have any question as to Shakespeare's familiarity with the wisdom of the Illuminati. You know, there's always so many other good things to read in here, but as I think this is will be a long one anyway. You know, they point at Swedenborg, you know, oh, he's so esoteric, Paco, you should listen to the please give me a little credit, you know. Been doing this for a while. I think I've heard of him. And he should have he needed to read the Bible as real, but you can't do it if you're not one called to, chosen, and faithful. On the other hand, we have works like the dramas of Shakespeare, which the world does not regard as, in quotes, spiritual literature, but which, by virtue of their double structure, enshrine a compendium of initiate wisdom comparable only to that which forms sacred scripture. Hence, the works of Shakespeare are the lay Bible. You got a true authorship of works bearing the name of Shakespeare. One must peer behind that veil of the Francis Bacon and those that believe they're behind a veil that conceals the guardian of the mysteries. And that's why they love the book of Enoch, because it talks about the Gibborim. When the Gibborim in the normal book of Genesis and the rest of the Bible are pretty much good guys. They're not the bad guys. The Gibborim are not what we're talking about with are we possibly the white people albinos. because in the leprosy in the Bible, if anybody can show me anywhere, oh no, I'm unclean, I'm unclean, my toes are falling off and my nose is falling off, I have leprosy. Show me one example where it's like, oh my goodness, how do you know you got leprosy? My skin turned white. And you're talking to somebody with blue, green, brown, gray eyes, hazel eyes, which you never even talk about eye color in the Bible. I think they were all brown. I do. I don't know. Maybe they had one language and one eye color. Hence the lay Bible, manifested in Europe as the Renaissance and found its primary English expression in the brilliant literary of these knuckleheads. If you had been one called who chosen, you'd agree. Hey, we'll be getting into the flood. He's the master. He's the guy that invented this gang sign, that the anti-Vulcan, double Vulcan. Maybe it's like looking in a mirror when I was younger. So anyway, we got, what is this here? Is this an order of something? The light that initiates the Jehovah God. Looks like he's underneath the light. What is this? Some sort of allusion to the angels? What is this? Psalm 1829. I don't know if I looked that up or not. Yeah, I know the J can be a 1 or a J in the year of our Lord, but these are the guys that obfuscate all the real stuff. Can we agree on that? So they're going to drop in those. You do see the 1 and the J used it the same. Can't deny that. Anyway, here's the guy Flood. He did this. This is his deal. The 10 divine names, the 10 divine feathers or something. The tree of life. I was going, I didn't really, wasn't surprised by any of this. And this wasn't actually engraved by the Robert Flood, Mudflood, not Mudflood, Bob Flood. Sapphirific tree of the ladder Kabbalist. So the 7, and then there's 3 more in there. I know they got the 7 chakras, but that must be another one up there, the horizon of eternity. You got, and when somebody tells you, oh, I know the divine name of God, and you have to say it like Yahudah, they're wrong, man. So I guess these tree of lives are everywhere. I'm not sure if this one was Robert Flood, but look at all that color and all of that geometry, the dot knowledge, Tefret beauty, foundation, Malkmut, the arousing, the shake, the thunder. Well, if that's the head and this is the button, the thunder might be a fart. There, I said it. That's what I think of their version of it. There's that yin and yang thing. A lot of people think that one of the first things I remember in my flat earth, like 2015, maybe 2016, Eric DeBay showed that the yin and the yang is the path. It marks out like at one point of the year, if it was the sun and the moon, and that is their light going over, at, you don't always see the moon, but I guess it's always there or whatever. Arousing shake thunder. I apologize for that. Hey, there it is in that, this has been around for a long time. The circle of life is what they call it. The tree of life is in the circle of life. It's on the disc. Maybe true, maybe not, but it's not in the Bible of something we should waste our time on, where the best you could ever come up with is a plausible theory. When we have the theory laid out by Father. What are these guys doing? I knew I would regret. Oh, okay. It's Aristotle's solar system. So that show an Earth in the middle. There's the moon out here, then Mercury, Venus, another SOL, Mars, Saturn. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what their order is back in the day. I had this one girl that was Donovan, the singer's maid back in. I was staying with her for a few days, and she did my horoscope anyway. So this is we're going to look at the crazy people. This is an insane asylum. The Nevada State Hospital. Where do you think it is? No, it's in Missouri. The Nevada State Hospital is in Missouri. And they built this, they say, like in the 1840s, 1850s. We'll get into it. But of course, we're not buying that. We're not buying that at all. For crazy people, they used to house them by the thousands in this place. And now I guess they're down to like, from 14,000 to 300, using the rest of it for weddings and picnics, offices. You could put a man could put his wife in an insane asylum if she stopped believing the same doctrine. If a girl wanted to go be a Presbyterian and he was a Baptist preacher, he could throw her ass in an insane asylum. It happened, and I'm not for it. And I'm not all for the women lib either, but I wouldn't want my daughter to be forced to have to do that. I have 3 daughters. I wouldn't want any of them to have their, you know, you get locked in this insane asylum. Newcomers found the Milwaukee of July 1835, a town of several stores and dwelling where none had been at the opening of the season. BS. I have some of these Kirkbride bat-wing insane asylums with pictures of them. Even as late as 1847, it was gravely asserted in the convention which framed the Constitution for statehood of Wisconsin that the section of western Wisconsin lying between the Wisconsin River and modern St. Paul, Minneapolis, was a cold, barren wilderness which would be forever uninhabitable. Huh. And the Green Bay Chicago rivalry. No wonder Green Bay kicks the Chicago Bears butt so bad most of the time because Green Bay is the real deal, and Chicago, got turned into the fake New Deal. Go figure. Oh, this was interesting. I did this morning. Just when I got on, I'm like, oh, really, Lord? Nobody likes it when I talk about white people being on 5 stages of albinism. So this is supposed to be a actual building in progress of the Chicago White Exposition, that 1893 one. Is that it? That was during a worldwide stock market crash or something, and this is they just mentioned was going to be the world's biggest movie theater. Maybe this is how they found the White City. This stage, it was like, I'm sure that at the time of Armageddon, not every Starfort was not in some form of repair or being built or a new building, because the king of Tyre and those guys were selling all that stuff. Well, look at, we got a lot of tabs to go over here. So basically, unless you have straight up albinism, OCA 1A, you're barely going to know that. I mean, then you know. It's like, oh, wow, they got white hair and their eyes don't reflect color. But everybody else, it's like, if you've got green, brown irises, light brown, gray irises, and don't say, well, they said red in the Bible. We don't know what they meant by red. We know that they described the wine as the color red, and and not it, or blue, whatever it is. It was messed up. There's no word for blue, and even though in the Greek writings, but in the Bible it talks about the lapis lazuli throne, and that's totally blue. The last two, it just basically similar to OCA2. It's just that if you don't have the real rare form of white people albinism, it's not going to show. You're just going to look like a white person. It's got like, oh, don't let me see those funky eyes, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's it. Now we got to say, hola, how you doing? Yeah, I got the grayish green eyes too. Hola, hola. A lot of some people have been emailing. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that I'm not the most prompt, and that you don't. And you. So here we go. New evacuation order. So this is all false hope. They're all, we love our firefighters. We get 50 new ones a year, and they can't keep up, and we call. There's people here from Canada fighting the fire. But this is big, it's time for we're going to make it. We're going to pull ourselves up. This is going to be bad for a long time for you people.
Michelle, this is happening in real time. You are looking at Brentwood right now. This is West Ridge Road and Cordelia Road. And this is just inching toward this home in the center of the screen. Look at this. It looks to me like there are city fire resources parked there. I'm seeing people walking around right on the edge of this property. You see movement over there. It looks to me like those are firefighters. I'm seeing flashes of yellow. I think that is their fire gear. But what can you do to stop a fire this massive that is moving so quickly? And consider the fact that we don't have very gusty winds right now.
Here's the old question. Prairie fires. What would you do if you were one of the people that were traveling west in a covered wagon and you saw, oh my goodness, a fire coming from the west, and it's the whole plain? What did they teach you to do back in that situation? Because there was an actual plan, and I suppose I think it worked. What you do is you start a fire. You start a fire right there in that part of the grassy plain, and then you let it burn. And then as that fire gets closer, you walk and take your horses and your family and your wagon train where it's just been burned. And then the fire burns around you. So that's the legend. I don't know if I've only heard it as if it's true. Would love to see some documentation on it, but there are ways. We're going to get into this here. Some of the next hydrants in the Bel Air fire in 1962 that destroyed this entire area because of the Santa Ana winds, and it was 100 miles an hour. the hydrants were dry. They could only store so much water from those reservoirs at a time through their filtering systems. Like I said in the subtitle, this was planned well before, hey, let's do the DEI thing. Not that I'm in favor of that in any way. You know my life. I'm living at a university where one of the Lolita Express writers recommended a DEI candidate, and she got the job and got fired after 2.5 years and put the school on probation. And we're still dealing with it. And that was 2018. Too much information, but here we go. So, live.
See it because it's happening behind this blanket.
Blanket of smoke.
Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida Rumbler, back in my home office, and we are all following the disaster catastrophe that are the Los Angeles fires. I have immediate family out there and numbers of extended.
You guys ever see this guy here? Look at that. He's got 600, but I have seen him around, and I he doesn't pretend to be a Christian. He's just a guy that's trying to make a living, and he gets caught up in the whole movement, and to him, it's all DEI. Boy, I better have that video net pretty soon. Oh, I don't. I'm gonna have to go find it. So this is the standard of let's blame the lesbians because they don't need a man. They actually just do it and know that so that they won't get pregnant and say that was just as good as a man, and they go, yeah, it was. Things like that. And they're licking each other's private parts. That's what they do for their sex. They don't try to have a child or anything.
Extended family out there and getting firsthand accounts as to what's going on. It's madness. It's absolute madness. And when you get the likes of Bernie Sanders reflexively, instinctively jumping on the climate crisis explanation for this, it's a little enraging.
It is. It's super enraging that they think we're that stupid. Go.
Using the Delta smells as an excuse to retain ownership or control over large swaths of fresh water? Possibly. Confirmed, however. Number two, insurance companies were canceling policies. We heard a number of people saying this. James Woods was saying this. And some people were saying, no, it's not true. Others were saying it's true and it's a conspiracy to burn people out of their homes. Whatever the intent is, it is true that insurance companies were canceling
let's look at
policies.
322.
You can't say you didn't know about the risk and then not have water in the fire hydrants later on. We'll get there in a second.
Maybe. I got to go find that video. That's planned to fail. This fire has already happened.
Nobody took proper precautions to mitigate, minimize, should it come to fruition.
This topic of the incompetence of DEI, this is a separate issue that should have been addressed because it's scientifically, biblically not plausible. I mean, the guys that are into Atlantis and the Book of Enoch, at least they have an argument. They have a fake book. They're going from something that, they don't want to believe that God would punish somebody for no apparent reason, but he doesn't. And they don't realize that he's good and the whole Bible explains it. Go with your pointy finger.
Going down, whatever. Other people are saying they go dry at higher elevations because it takes water pressure to bring the water up there.
So that's a big deal to everybody right now. I know, I get it. I'm not trying to discount that these women that can't carry a man out of a fire shouldn't be working there. That goes without saying, man. I mean, that's not even an argument.
Clearly, they weren't prioritizing the homelessness. And by the way, prioritizing fighting homelessness through the firefighting department. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI leads to people DIEing. What else was going on? Confirmed now? Vaccine mandates.
That's how you get this many subscribers and this many views since yesterday. You are mad about what they want you to be mad about instead of like, why didn't we deal with this earlier? Let's see if it comes up on my algorithm, that one, because I didn't subscribe to it, but I watched a couple of them. If not, we'll have to go to my history and then go back. A lot of tempting things there, huh? Have you seen this old one in Espanol?
Bienvenidos a Mente Abierta. Escarpadas. En mi opinión, estos extraordinarios edificios y estatuas fueron tallarse o cortarse o
It's worldwide. There's no stopping Mudflood theology and what comes out. I mean, he's influenced by the Book of Enoch too, but everybody is. But let's just take a quick look at this, because I mean, he started out of, so 4 years ago he's been doing this. Oh, that's Renaissance painting brought from the past. Okay. So, and a lot of good stuff, and some of them are in English. Some of them are in English. Let's see if there's one I watched, but I think that's in Espanol.
Bienvenidos a Mente Abierta. Gente con nariz recta. Civilización.
We're going to be going over this one, some of these things. This probably got me on it a little bit, but this was the decoding movie that I watched. Why this reservoir was not being used. That's a big update. That's Gavin Newsom did that. Let's see. So this is yesterday. Here we go with the LA Fire Department has a YouTube website, and it's good. We'll look at that one for sure. And then we'll jump to the other ones, but you have to see this one first. That was a girl.
I, Christine Crowley,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Charter of the City of Los Angeles,
and the Charter of the City of Los Angeles,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Chief Engineer and General Manager
of Chief Engineer and
Watch
General
this
Manager
handshake.
of the Los Angeles City Fire Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
It is my pleasure to be the first one to do it.
Way to go. So she's probably not going to last very long.
Design for Disaster, the story of the Bel Air conflagration.
So this is the propaganda and you could tell that some of them are live and some of them are recreated later to be like, well, it's not our fault. It just happens that way. And we did the best we could, and we're going to learn these lessons. It'll never happen again. Sorry, this is all guys.
Indians named it Santana, the devil wind. When it blows, plants wither, trees and brush become crackling dry, atmosphere grows tense, oppressive. People tire easily, argue more. Even the suicide rate rises.
I think this is all crazy nonsense, and they did this on purpose then so that from 1962 you could have a whole generation, another 60 years of people 62 years, 63 years now. People living there thinking this will never happen again, but oh man, it's the same thing.
During the months of the Santa Ana, warm, dry. This climate plays an important part in attracting over 3,000 people a month to the city of Los Angeles.
Wow.
To become permanent residents.
Wow.
To settle into hotels, apartments, homes along the coast, inland throughout the central residential sections to the far reaches of the valley.
Same roads they use today. They rebuilt.
Throughout the department. Standby companies are moved up to stations near brush areas to strengthen the circle of protection. But even as they move, trouble strikes. At 8:15, an alert of fire is relayed to the officer in command of mountain firefighting units.
That looks professionally
Patrol and
done.
all units concerned. They reported brush fire in the mountain area, 3600 block Stone Canyon.
The division chief responds immediately. Clouds of brush smoke are already visible on the
So
ridge.
it's all propaganda.
The chief calls for additional companies.
Okay, so they gets much worse real quick.
Mr. Della, I can see the fire on the west side of Roscommare. It has jumped at least 500 feet further south. Fire has jumped Roscommare.
No roof. You got what is it? All convertibles back then. Look at that
Responding
helicopter in
apparatus
the
is directed in by
60s.
helicopter. Defense forces are split once again to handle the two additional fronts. As equipment and manpower thin out, fire grows with the wind, and flames begin spreading at the rate of 13 acres per minute. Tactics change from offense to defense. Fire crews are directed to positions between structures.
It doesn't
and
work.
Where residents may remain, where they may not. Decisions are based on the prime consideration in any fire, safety to human life. Ahead of the fire, police officers...
They're going to be demanding better compliance. When they say go, you go.
are hard-pressed to control the evacuation of residents. While they work, radios blare out messages of trouble.
In Kidder Canyon, we need police assistance here to evacuate these people. We are going to lose some civilians if we don't get them out of here.
There's a lady here having difficulty breathing. She's been sick and trapped in this fire. We have a school bus trapped 2425 Roscommare Road. The children are out.
Wow.
The wood roof. Spot fires appear everywhere, spread, fuse together to feed the parent blaze. A blaze which is no longer just a major brush fire, just a group of burning buildings. It is now a full-scale conflagration. On the move, headed for the thickly populated areas of every residential section.
Yeah, just like it today. Why didn't they have water? That's important.
From smoke, cinders, and fire. And below, as more equipment moves in, firefighters again take beatings in their stand between homes and fire. Paint blisters, hose lines char, fire coats are scorched and endurance tested, but the lines hold, and the men hold, and the homes still stand. 184 times.
The answer is no.
Fire proved its deadly efficiency by incinerating in a few roaring minutes.
And look at there's the same thing. There's still trees in the front yard, burned on both sides.
Had taken years to acquire. 6,090 acres of blackened hills, canyons, and neighborhoods. Over 3,000 men, 240 fire vehicles, and 16 aircraft tried to stop it. Did stop it, but only after a hard driving Santa Ana died down and gave them a chance. They broke the fires back in 12 hours, saved over 2,200 homes, a major college. Not one.
I don't know what the percentages are. It sounds like that, this fire, it's 3.5 days now.
One single life was lost. Not one critical burn case reported. Firemen had set a new record according to national fire experts. But still, people wonder. Fire victims, as well as those who merely read about the fire, ask the same question.
How can a brush fire get so far out of control within a well-protected city and do the things it does?
Let's analyze this fire and see what did happen. Some phases are difficult to explain. Why is a framework of bare wood left unharmed in a furnace of heat that crumbles masonry around it?
That's like something that Brush Junkie and Shane and those guys talk about. Like, what's all these pulses coming out of the Area 51?
Why does a roaring fire suddenly stop in heavy brush as if cut by a knife? Why do flames spare one house and consume identical dwellings on all sides?
So same explanation that they're giving in 2025.
Spot fires across the canyon, and combustible roofs do not ignite from falling embers. The fire preheats canyons to ignition temperatures. As flames move uphill, the reaction can be almost explosive.
What? This is a powerful demonstration.
Demonstrated with a branch from a specimen of hillside brush. Held upright with fire moving downward, the fire travels slowly. But reverse the situation. Place the fuel above the fire. On a hill fire, burning brands carry over. These fire drafts are further compounded by the Santa Ana. Results can be disastrous. On the morning of November 6th, Santa Ana winds were moving in a southwesterly direction from desert to coast. At the same time, numerous ridges of the Santa Monicas were channeling ground winds almost due south. So it was that winds were traveling in two directions at the time of the fire. When the fire reached Bel Air and consumed homes in such numbers that firestorms resulted, thermal heat lifted burning shingles and before.
Okay, hang on a couple more minutes. You're going to get the water explanation. Again, these looks like this was not filmed on the day of the fire. They're just trying to make their best case scenario for, we did the best we could. Don't be mad at us. Don't sue us or whatever.
Nothing more than pick out individual houses and try to save them.
But even in such attempts to save individual homes, firemen are further thwarted by the loss of water. How can a modern water system properly designed to meet emergency fire conditions fail to function? Let's look at this simplified diagram of houses on a hill being supplied by a water tank above. When thousands of outlets are opened below the hill, water pressure is lost in the overtaxed main, regardless of the amount of water above the houses. Where the water supply comes from a distant location and supply pipes dead end on the hill, unnecessary use of too many outlets below the fire area simply drains the water out of the upper system. We have considered water, wind, and weather. Now there's the very real problem of how a house is constructed and where.
Well, it's right there in the mountains, right there surrounded by the trees. The first girl, this is the guy that got fired so that you could see the girl that's about to get fired, but he's so proud of her.
Los Angeles Fire Department graduated its latest class, including 49 men and 3 women. The recruits had to go through a rigorous 20-week training program, and one of those women graduated at the top of the class. Caroline Carpenter and Fire Chief Ralph Terrazas is here now to join us. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations, Caroline.
Thank you so much.
I mean, what an accomplishment. Have you always wanted to be a firefighter?
It wasn't a lifelong goal, I have to admit, but I fell in love with public safety when I started working as lifeguard out of high school in Seal Beach, and a lot of my coworkers became firefighters, and they started getting me interested in it, and here.
It's just a good way to make a living, you know?
Males.
Do you think this will encourage more women to maybe come out and be firefighters?
I certainly hope so. That's why we're here today. We want to motivate women that they can do the job, not only meet the minimum standards, but excel and come out number 1.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it might be changing now. Women know that it's possible, and they see other women doing it, but it's hard. So you have to be in shape.
What would you tell those young women at home that were thinking about it? What would you tell them?
Number 1, look at Caroline. She
And she's married, has a child.
Did it. You can do it.
How rigorous it is?
Honestly, I would have to say that there are maybe women who aren't as interested. You know, there are definitely more men who have grown up wanting the job and see other men doing it, so they know that they can. I think it might.
Okay, so let's see. There's one other one. The first, is it going to be easier for me to find it that I watched it last night? The first woman. The first woman to do it 6 years ago, and now they're in charge. I'm saying they're pushing
When I
too
was a child,
hard.
I always would look at fire engines and trucks, and that they would be really cool to me. But I never thought I could be a firefighter because I'd never seen other females, you know, on the engine or riding.
Right. They did. You're number one. You did it. You know, she opened the door. She worked out. She could do the minimum standard for the man.
Station, and I absolutely fell in love. It was, you know, all the teamwork, all the camaraderie, all the things that they learn. It's all, you know, on the job learning. The first thing I did was get my EMT. I volunteered at a fire station in a different department, and I got myself physically prepared. The Los Angeles Fire Department's goal is to have our fire department reflect the city. And that not only is ethnicity, but that's just all different types of backgrounds so we could come together to solve a problem when we're on a call. In order to promote to inspector, you have to have worked in the field as a firefighter for 4 years prior to promoting at all. At first, I was in the environmental unit where we did.
Well, you know, she did the minimum to get the job, and then she did everything she could to not actually do the job. That's my opinion. I'm allowed to have it because the Los Angeles Fire Department has one of like the kick-ass insurance. I mean, just to live there and be there, and you get paid for it pretty good, and their insurance is good. It's a lot better than the hundreds of thousands of people that are out there getting paid to go to the game shows and the quiz shows and act like they're, you know, I'm there to watch these, you know, be celebrity stars solve puzzles.
Hazmat and hazmat inspections and underground tanks. Now I'm in the community risk reduction unit, so now we're doing more project-oriented type things. My parents were, I'm Japanese and a quarter Mexican, so they know that they raised me to be safe, and I'm also married, and I'll be able, you know, I would like to start a family, so this job allows me to have that schedule to provide for my family and to provide good health insurance and, you know, and just have a good career and a good longevity.
They should do a follow-up with her, you know. I wonder what she's doing today out in the world of firefighting. You farson. I wanted to study this, so I did. And, you know, it's equivalent to apocalypto in the Greek, but it's from Daniel, so it's Aramaic. To expose, to be made naked. Mini, mini, Turkle, you farson. After Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king that demanded the people respect the Most High God of Israel, the day he died, man, another guy took over and he said, break out the Hebrew party cups and let's party. And they were drinking and disrespecting the holy things. And their kingdom was just, okay, you're going to die. He died that night. Daniel got his promotion. He promoted him, made him the third most powerful, and he kept that job until Cyrus. He wrote the book of Daniel. Many, many Turkle. Many, many Turkle. To count, to number, add up, Are we going to live forever? We're going to get summed up someday. The city is a cauldron. Yikes. The city is not a cauldron. Ezekiel 11, verse 1. The Spirit lifted me up and brought me to the east gate of the house of the Lord, which faces east. And behold, at the entrance of the gateway there were 25 men, and I saw among them Jaazaniah, the son of Azur, and Pelatiah, the son of Benaniah, prince of the people. And he said to me, Son of man, these are the men who devise iniquity and who give wicked counsel in the city, who say, the time is not near to build houses. This city is the cauldron, and we are the meat. Therefore, prophesy against them. Prophesy, O Son of Man. And the Spirit of the Lord fell on me, and he said to me, Say, thus says the Lord. So you think, O house of Israel, for I know the things that come into your mind. You have multiplied your slain in this city, and have filled its streets with the slain. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, your slain whom you have laid in the midst of it, they are the meat, and this city is the cauldron, but you shall be brought out of the midst of it. So the secret then, and I believe the secret now, is that if you don't want the city to be your cauldron, he's giving you away. Otherwise, you're going to, be given into the hand of foreigners, and they're going to execute the judgment if you survive, if you don't get cooked and eaten. Their hearts are definitely going after their detestable things and their abominations. You in a city, are you counting the cost? So conflagrations. There's a lot recently. Those big fires. Look at this, man. 173 victims. Look at that. 232 fatalities. That was these big nightclub things, man. 22 fatalities there. 200-year-old National Museum. The Notre Dame. At least nobody died, but it was a crazy fire, right? And they're having a big one there. Dozens of people killed in LA. Nobody got killed in the first one. Let's go to World War II. They admit up 100,000 here, 25,000 here. The fake atomic bombings there. They had plans to burn the cities. They didn't mention the Tokyo conflagration, in which it says another one where, we don't want to admit, but we know that there were 1 million left homeless, and probably a lot of people died later. It's the most destructive single air attack. It got left out of the firebombing history, that this is their plan. Now they don't need to do it this way. They've got other ways, but it's always them, because people know how to get away from the fire. They know that, why should I live in the cauldron? There's a lot of people live in the cities. The majority of the people do not, because this is a very large flat earth. And you don't want to make it easy for them to track you down when they get mad. What you want is not a cell phone. The way people did this, because Japan was winning the war, they faked atomic weapons the Nazis finally surrender. So the Soviet Union can now fight Japan. The Soviet Union hadn't fought Japan one bit, but now they turned their whole army, the United States, Australia, Great Britain, not that that was much help, in Canada. They attacked in China the day they claimed they dropped the atomic bombs. And that week they kicked their ass, and less than a week later they claimed they dropped another one, and Japan surrendered because the people that considered themselves pure white were not about to lose a game of chess to Japan. And everything else you read about it is bullshit. This is what they have Pompeii like for your future. If you're going to stay in the fucking cities, if you're going to go enlist in their military and try to make America great again, like my son did, because I was that idiot that encouraged it, because my dad did it, his 9 brothers did it, I did it. So my son thought I should go there, and he learned how to drink Fireball because he can't tell one bad thing about the United States or they'll put him in the prison. You know, you can't tell deflagration or detonation, DTT. They know, they have studied every type of explosion, fire, how to guide it, how to do things. Have you ever seen that some people in the world are good at those things like juggling? You know, we watch them and we go, wow, never. I could never do that. I can't. I can juggle 3. I can juggle 2 with one hand, but these guys go completely nuts, man. They're some juggling machines, and that's all they do. And other people do it with card tricks to deceive you.
Dilg seems to have been something of a mentor to Scharf during this period, with Dilg as the outspoken and opinionated interpreter of the past, and Scharf in the background as an unassuming collector. Scharf was undoubtedly influenced by Dilg, and likely took much of his early information from Dilg's studies of the region.
It is 1898 and onward. Thousands of Confederate prisoners of war from Camp Douglas was discovered on the eve of the national election, with plans to overrun the city of Chicago, causing confusion and interfering with the election. Camp Douglas was located just to the south of Chicago, within proximity of Lake Michigan, near what is today Cottage Grove Avenue and 32nd Street, situated on approximately 60 acres of land. Hundreds of young Chicago men were quickly enlisted, resided in the 20th Ward, in the area just north of the Chicago River.
So they know a lot about this guy.
Chicago Avenue and east of Franklin Street.
His mother and 3 siblings lived just a few blocks south and east, along Sedgwick Avenue.
The early and mid-1880s saw the deaths of the couple's remaining parents, Barbara Minty Scharf's father, James, and Albert's mother, Emily. And this is just about the time period when Albert's story gets a bit murky, the mid-1880s to the late 1890s, where we know little of his whereabouts or doings. And the reason may be revealed in testimony given by Scharf in 1902, when he was being considered as a jury member for a Chicago trial. Scharf's response to questioning by attorneys was so curious as to be noted in the local newspapers. The papers stated that the trial attorneys were just about to accept him as a juryman when he was asked, "Were you ever a defendant?" "Yes," responded Scharf. "I was a defendant in an insane court. My family thought that I was insane." "What was the issue of the trial?" asked the attorney. "I spent 11 years in the asylum at Elgin," was the reply.
Wow, so
Scharf was...
It wasn't only men that could put their wives in an insane asylum. Other family members could also.
Promptly excused from the case. The Northern Illinois Hospital for the Insane...
Yeah, we'll be getting into some of these, you know, these are Mudflood fakes, so they had to fill them up with the fake-ass history, and this is part of it. It has to be.
In Elgin, Illinois, opened in
Some part
1872.
is, give them a kernel of
It is
truth.
possible that Scharf simply made up the story in order to avoid sitting on the jury. But this would not agree with what we know about Scharf's character, as he was generally very straightforward and matter-of-fact. Note that this was a time when it was
That's not even the same one. This is Northern Illinois Hospital for the same. And so he gets out, he goes, and it's like, I'm not wrong. He was doing something. He was telling them that the mounds, the Native Americans, our history doesn't make sense. He made a map and people took him serious. So it seems.
Indeed, descriptions of Scharf indicate that he walked great distances and rode his bicycle extensively throughout the Chicago region.
It was at about this time that Albert became an active member of the Chicago Historical Society, contributing artifacts and information.
When they let a guy that's, I'm totally crazy. We know what crazy people are today. They're twitching their neck and biting their fingernails and banging their, they put football helmets on their head because they're just going to keep hitting their head against the wall. That's what crazy people do. They don't get accepted, like, yeah, I stood for my beliefs. I'm not insane. Let's get back onto the historical work.
In 1900, he published his first version of his now
2 years after he gets out of prison?
The Indian trails and villages of Chicago and of Cook, DuPage, and Will counties, Illinois, as an attempted recreation of such sites circa 1804, when Native Americans were the predominant culture and people of the area. Scharf's map indicates Native American trails, village sites, and
even numbered them. See the 2?
Shipping stations where stone tools were fabricated, mounds and earthworks, portage trails, signal stations, and natural springs.
The publication of this map was noteworthy.
I live here for 30 years, 40 years out, out in the country, out here where my mouse would be. They just miss it. And I lived up here in Lake Zurich because I could afford it. But I lived in here in Park Ridge when my wife and I just got married and things like that. And this right here, these are the same roads. And that's what this is about. We just still just paved the roads that they used to call the war path, that the Indians said, no, trading path. And they go, well, we're going to use them for war, bitches.
As it represents the very first attempt at documenting a Chicago area regional survey of Native American sites, both historical and...
See, this is 55, Route 80, coming up in here to Lakeshore Drive, taking Green Bay Road up to all the way to Green Bay, but through Kenosha, Sheboygan, those towns, and in the what's that one town that's right up there on the border? It's got a big harbor. Shoot, I was on a jury there once.
Archaeological, as there had heretofore been none
Waukegan?
for northeastern Illinois. Early on, Scharf's map was widely accepted as a highly credible source for Chicago area antiquity. And in the years that followed, it raised considerable interest with the public.
Well, I would hope so. So they did show that, was something going on. They could have faked all of this and then faked the birth records, or, man, these short season resets are harder than, because basically we have a new world after 9/11, 2001. We've accepted invasions of privacy. We carry our tracking, all of this LGBTQ stuff is all part of that world that right now there's 50-year-old people in the United States, and abortion has always been legal. It's always in their mind, every time they hear about it, the constitutionally protected right to an abortion. And they have records.
By 1920, Albert and Barbara Scharf had moved to New Trier Township in Winnetka, Cook County, Illinois, living at 558 Willow Road. Scharf, at 72 years of age, was by now retired. His work on Native American trails and mapping of sites.
Crazy, right? After having to prove that you're not crazy. So this is an interesting website. When I was looking through this 1893 World's Fair stuff, we're going to get back into a lot more of the Kilbright Batwing Insane Asylum stuff, but this is interesting, right? No, the World Columbian Exposition, October 9th, 1893. So the Ferris wheel, one ride. And remember, a quarter is like equivalent to $8 today. So you want to check this out. World's Columbian. Child ticket. I thought it was interesting. And I've got a few of their, the DeWitt Clinton steam locomotive, because DeWitt Clinton is the man who built the Erie Canal. And he spent some time in a debtor's prison and had to get, brought out. And so I was just saying, like, he got into trains after canals. They just give, look at that, stagecoaches. Believe me, those did not cause the ruts on the Oregon Trail. But an interesting picture I've never seen, the Lionel O. Gage DeWitt Clinton. Yeah. Makes me want to say, I'm going to fly now. What's this one? See, these are going faster than I thought. Here's the Negro codes in Illinois. Wonder what that is. Your petitioner, though humble in position and having no political status in your state, notwithstanding, I have resided in it for 25 years and today am paying taxes on $30,000. Most humbly beseech you to recommend in your message to the legislature that you repeal the Negro laws of this your state. Thus began John Jones' letter to Illinois Governor Richard Yates in 1864. So that's the end of the Civil War. So wonder what the black codes were in the north. This is a northern, strongly, proudly, we were for the north, but they had Negro code laws back then. Some of these things I just pulled up to read because, I didn't get finished last night till darn near 10 o'clock. Then RJ was on the phone. So they would also return runaway slaves because that was the law. You can't come to our state. You got to get out. Get out. Burning the black newspaper, I guess. So whatever, right? That's what everybody thinks. Oh, well, no, we paid for those sins. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. My dad never owned a slave, so impossible that we could have ever, had 1964 before the laws were changed that you can't deny a person a loan because of their color. That wasn't a law. You could. And they did. This is Freemason Rosicrucian land. That's going to be the last third of this show. These guys did it. No, they did. They had it done to them, and we don't want to believe it. We think it's always been like it is today. It has not. This is all brand new. They had to fight, I guess, in 1893 to have, even have some black people that weren't portrayed as from Africa that, and, okay, this is what you want you to believe that Abraham Lincoln, we've all know these stories. So this is where they debated, and this is what their bars were like. Not in the pictures that I see, not in the world that they describe. This is the world. That's the world. That's what they lived in. It's the same thing we live in now. Court of dioramas. So what is the Green Book? So I think this is a book that for black people that guides to hotels and restaurants that would accept black people. It means, here's the Chicago version of your Negro motorist. They will accept your business, their business. Often ones established specifically for black customers, but they probably had. I mean, we know there's a huge China population there. I think besides Warsaw, Chicago used to have the second highest population of any city, but it's not in Poland. I mean, on Pulaski Day in Chicago, it's like Cinco de Mayo. Everybody wants to, yeah, I'm a Mexican today. It's time to party. Where's my Corona beers? It's the same thing, man. When it's Pulaski Day, except it's white people. That was pretty nice. Huh. I guess, we had two worlds living back then, right? Rich blacks, the Boule Freemasons. Boule. They actually had a book said black people go here because they can't. And I've heard the stories that people like Ida B. Wells and other people, they would save up for a month, they said, so they would go into Chicago and go down to Harlem and listen to those bands. It's like the kids that went to go see the Aerosmith concerts in the 70s. And I went to see the Pink Floyd in Chicago in late 70s. And then you go back to the farm. But they rich people stay there. So anyway, she was mad that no black people, after 25 years of freedom, well, she's famous because she helped launch her anti-lynching laws because it wasn't illegal to lynch blacks. You understand that most of them were never prosecuted, and like saying 100,000 people got killed in Tokyo, that's like saying, "Oh, we admit there's 3,500 lynchings that shouldn't have happened." There's probably who knows how many more. But they did have a Negro Day. And they marched the people from the African villages around. Blacks stood as a people without a nation until Haitian President Florville Hippolyte let black leaders use the Haitian Pavilion as a platform for protest and quickly became the center of Americans of color. So it's been hard. I guess it's been, would you rather have albinism right now? Because it's going to be all tongues and tribes in heaven. What is unclean, unclean? Here's the symbolism of leprosy. It doesn't say one time in here what is the only biblical time of which proved you have it. Leprosy, as depicted in the Bible, serves as a profound symbol of sin. It says, it gives the same bullshit. Leprosy, known today as Hansen's disease, and then eventually your thumb will fall off. and then eventually your face will fall off. Is that what the Bible says? Does it even hint at that? Does it even hint at, like, Moses' sister kind of got a little lippy with Moses, even though she was used by God mightily? It doesn't say she broke out in blisters or hives or fingers started falling off because she lost the sense of feeling in her fingers. It says her skin turned white. What is clean? Well, there's a clean. Catharizo. You can make me clean, the leper said. I am willing. Be thou clean. Be clean. He cleans the woman that had, they know the difference between a woman that had, you know, something drippy, something, an infection that wouldn't heal. They know their medical terms. They knew what, go to the priest and say, is this leprosy, or is this an infection that's going to, turn your hair white if it blisters? Otherwise, you could just be going bald. Your hair's not falling out because you're sick. You're just bald. That wasn't a shameful thing then, but they still made fun of him. People didn't want to be bald. I'm not thrilled with being bald, but that's just the way it goes. I'm very happy with, knowing the Lord and knowing that it's like, yay, and all that. I get it, man. I get it completely. I'm happy. Acts 9:15. So some of these I just looked up because it had clean in them, and I really want to hit a lot of clean before we finish up with that insane asylum stuff. He made not one distinction, having purified them. So this is that word. There's another, cleansing of their heart. Cleansed by washing. Make clean, make pure. Leprosy, clean. So it affects us too. He cleanses our sins. He cleanses them away as much as he cleansed the lepers. That's very symbolic. Here it is right here. He's having these promises before you. Let's look at that. I forgot which one I was looking for. I didn't think it was. Since we have these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from every defilement of body and spirit, bringing separation. You got to keep it separated to completion in the fear of God. Do you understand what failure means now before God? Oh, but I confessed Christ. And if Christ looks at you and says, you know how much talent I gave you? That's going to happen, people. That's going to happen. And you're not going to be judged on how well you competed to the other couch potatoes that we've all become until we're changed. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and weep. Turn your laughter to mourning and your joy to gloom. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will exalt you. People, your laughter to mourning. The people in Malachi, why did Malachi say He turned away. He said, "What good is it walking around as if we're in mourning all the time? We want to party. We want to get down." Hebrews 9:22. I'm on to this now. I know that I just hit him so I'd go to him later. According to the law, in fact, nearly everything must be purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Nearly everything. Some things can be purified by fire. You do know my opinion on that. We will be rescued by fire once, Satan is finishing this and the time is up and near the end and we've lived as strong as we could for the Lord. We'll be rescued by fire. Fire will come down and destroy them, but the fire didn't destroy Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because they had been set apart and holy. At least that's what I believe. Oh my goodness, don't start crying. Titus chapter 2, 14. Verse 13 starts, as we wait the blessed hope and glorious appearance of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness, to purify for himself a people for his own possession who are zealous for good works. I'm gonna let you rewatch this short video by this young lady.
Because light reflects off blood vessels in the back of their eyes. Most people with albinism have blue eyes. This can vary, however, as we'll soon see. There are two kinds of albinism, oculocutaneous and ocular. Let's begin with oculocutaneous albinism. This form of albinism affects melanin production in the hair, eyes, and skin. Now, melanin production isn't easy. It requires the hard work and cooperation of a whole group of genes. These genes all work together to build up melanin from an amino acid called tyrosine. This all takes place inside a little factory or organelle called a melanosome. Some of these genes form an assembly line to create melanin. Each has a job to do and it has to be done. This brings us to the first kind of oculocutaneous albinism, OCA1. OCA1 denotes a defect in the enzyme tyrosinase. The job of this enzyme is to convert tyrosine into pigment. OCA1 has two subdivisions. OCA1A means that the enzyme is totally broken. The assembly line can't function and no melanin can be made. This results in white skin and hair and is usually what you think about when you hear albinism. OCA1B means the enzyme is only kind of working. It's like an assembly line machine that's not really functioning correctly, but sort of gets the job done. This means that a little bit of melanin is made. The skin is usually a bit pigmented, and the hair is usually a blonde color. OCA2 is a bit different. This form of albinism deals with genes that affect the environment in which the melanin is made, the melanosome. Think of it like the factory's air conditioning. The process can still happen, but it won't be as efficient. Without air conditioning, the machines might overheat and not work as well. OCA2 actually affects a gene that causes problems with acidity in the melanosome. This results in minimal pigment. Hair color can range from light blonde to brown. This is the most common type of albinism. OCA3 is a rare kind of albinism, a defect of a protein related to tyrosinase called TYRP1. Individuals with OCA3 albinism can often have a lot of pigment. OCA4 deals with the defect of SLC45A2 protein, which helps tyrosinase function. OCA4 individuals often look similar to OCA2 individuals. Finally, OCA5 through 7 deals with mutations of additional causative genes. They were only described recently, so not much is known about them.
Additional causative genes. That just means, that's our different shades of white. They did this to us. But it doesn't matter. If we're human, and we are, we can be saved. they put him in a crazy house because he's basically saying all our roads and everything are built on the old Indian Mound highways. And they said, you know what? Does anybody else in the family think this guy is crazy? Yeah. Schaumburg Mall. First mall. Big mall, enclosed mall. John Travolta visited there and got 100,000 people in 1978 or 77. It was a big deal for us. I went and checked it out. It was kind of cool. Not anymore. Looking for more overlays of, maps of Chicago that follow the roads and of the Native Americans, and sure they all do. They all did. We're right, they're wrong. But they're not going to admit it. That's another one of the shows. The canal. Oh, that's the same one. No way. Because I'm backing up. So my daughter went to Elgin University. It's a guy that wrote that one famous prayer, the Serenity Prayer. He went there too. German it was. Then she got accepted to a Jesuit school and I let her go. Because only 13 people from the whole nation, they do 25 speech audio pathologists a year at Marquette. And because it's Marquette, 13 of their people get more than half. And the rest of the country gets 12. And my daughter was one of them. We're like, cool, go get them. Well, yeah, it's okay. She's pretty well off now, but she's a, in quotes, Christian feminist. It's just one of it's these things. This was here, the Elgin State Hospital. Not much of a picture, but you can think it's torn down now. Well, they got an image gallery. Look at that. We already saw that one. What's this one? You got to do them one at a time. Kilbright, this is the insane people. And were they people like the guy who made the map? You're trying to prove something that it wasn't the white people and the pioneers. And pioneer is a military term, so is settler. Look at it. It's a postcard. All the other pictures are the offered up Wikipedia, real small ones. There's a bed with two Italianate style windows. But don't look too closely, everybody. Just forget the dome and forget the fact that Elgin doesn't have any insane people in it now. There's not any. I don't think, unless it's like, not meth related or, very few anyway. But of course, they'll give it to them, and now it's a state hospital. Its sister building was Jacksonville. So it cost this much to build. Do we have to get many fish to get to, or one of the other gematria people out there to get you to go? They use 33 or not a lot. Well, okay, Dabu, he could beat that dead horse. I'll beat others. They found these buildings. This is such a recent history. That's what's tripping everybody up. We're onto them. In 1847, the legislature established, let's start calling anybody gets accused of being insane and the people in the white coats will be coming to take you away. Ha 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 ha. That's what they do. They plan fires to explain away this. Because in their mind, this Nevada State Hospital in Missouri, built in 1890, because why not? It really only becomes ridiculous when you realize that they can't hide that one. You didn't get that much on the other ones. Mendota, another one. That's a terrible one. Look, they don't even show, oh, here's another one in Anna, Illinois. All it just says is it was, established in 1869 under the Kilbright Plan. But why show a picture of it so people can go like, wait, man, is this really in the middle of nowhere? Wow, it really is. Because here's St. Louis. Here's Cairo, Mound City. This is really in the middle of nowhere. They can't be the only mud flooder there. Oh, they show it when you show Anna. There it is, up there in the middle of nowhere, still standing as the central complex for the C.L. Schultz Mental Health and Developmental Center. I wonder how many patients they have. Because it's built to hold thousands. So they're not going to give me a Wikipedia page, and I almost hate to go to their website, but I will. 168 is their current census. Average age is 41 years old. Did you see the picture of that place? Its yearly budget is 49, almost 50 million. And that's fiscal year 2023. So Anna exists to take care of this many people. Because I can't imagine, there's anything but a bunch of hayseed farmers there like I was. Let's look at this town. Well, that's the Kilbright plan. Just got new roofs and air conditioners on it. But what else they got in this town? What's this over here? Golf course. What are you hiding? Oh, that's not a golf course. That's some sort of a concrete mix factory or something. Of course, there's the Walmart. Boy, this is the middle of nowhere. Look at that. It is getting southern. Look at all those trees, man. It's not like up where I was from. Look at that farm town, man. Yeah, they don't even have a high school there. My sister was the principal and superintendent. We're in Seneca, one of the towns over that has the high school now. This is the famous place of the Mazan River, which is the most famous fossil thing in the world. What are they calling it now? Johnny Run? What? Not Brazil. See? Mazan River goes a little bit outside of town, but then doesn't it swing back through town? We only get a little tributary of it. It's Johnny Run is a tributary. It's not the real river. But anyway, it is the. Let's just look it up and not a map. It has the gully monster because it's near Morris, Illinois. It has the Mazan Creek fossils. It is the easiest place to go find what they call a gully monster. But yeah, just a parasite or something that got fossilized. If it was living in you, if it was living in a Titan, that's what it would be. So they basically call it a gully monster. I believe that's what they used to call it. Huh. Well, I used to go, I took my daughter Shelby one time. I was into, a couple years before I left, we got called. I was into the rocks at that time, as she will verify, as everybody will know. So she's another one that she changed denominations and was wrongfully committed to an insane asylum for 6 years, something like that. Got out again, and then she became famous as like not a women liber, but just women's rights to not be involuntarily committed to insane asylums. And that I'm sure that the guy who made the map thought the same thing. But what the world is going on back then? Right? And so, that's what got me on to looking at the star forts, baby. And this is the early diseases of the mind. People used to be considered so crazy, and one of their common denominators was they all believed in that pharaohology. All of these guys practiced quack science. Every single one of them that they'll admit now, he was a genius. Too bad he was into pharaohology and all the racist implications of that. Another one from that site, timeline of, because there's a Kilbright plan. They've got to explain all of these in their history. So you needed people that could go from, if your wife or husband said you're crazy, it's good. And now they're in charge and saying, everybody else that told you that homosexuality is wrong, they're the dumb ones. And we're in charge now. We're the head of the psychiatric hospitals and the fire departments and the police departments. Ask that girl remember that guy that ran over the people in New Orleans recently? And we did the show on, look at their superintendent of the police. She's my age. She's 67 years old. They don't say when she was born. They don't mention her parents on Wikipedia. Benjamin Rush, Rush Presbyterian St. Luke. This guy was quackity doodah. Quackity yay. What's that? Pharaohology in the 1830s. It's insanity, but that's what the quackity doodahs believed. And they call you a sheep? I'm feeling his head. These are the numbers. It's a science. They all believed it. There wasn't the norm. It wasn't that there were women out there going, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Why don't men listen to us? Although some will rewrite history to make it try to seem that way, because there is a woman's guiding hand of the cradle. And we do know that women would poison some children and not others. They'd poison some husbands and not others. And they became the gods now, the Matildas, the Columbias, the realization that the Zeus didn't work. And it's too much, man. Even Martin Luther, everybody at the other time period, which I would consider, you know, the 1500s, 1600s, the middle of the golden age of Christ. The wheats and the tares are maturing. You can't hide who they are. So they start meeting in secret. Found, as early as the 300, the 1300s, or maybe even the 1200s. Some wheat just came out saying, we were the wolves in sheep clothing that they were warned about. They're always going to be there. If Satan give him credit, he's listening to Jesus. You go live in the caves, flee there, and you'll have a chance. You don't think that he got in on that? You don't think so? Well, anyway, back in here, of course, there. What I've been telling you all along, it's always going to lead back to the Freemasons, and they are the modern honky John Birch Society, man. That guy, the Bob Cock, they promote the Republicans. They got the Democrats, believing the nonsense that the psychiatrists, I almost said, scat out, after that Sydney communication thing that everybody's signing up for. If you live in a city, probably not going to make it. These guys are serious, man. They spent buck back in the day. It looks. Stay in the city and find out. Don't look into the Rosicrucians, the John Birch, and the Freemasons, any other aspect of it. That it didn't go all the way up to the JFK. Because when was this guy? Well, he was born there, 1574. Another one of the Rosicrucians, Periclesian physician, Periclesian. He could teach you anything just by keep asking me questions and think about it yourself. It sealed off Hermeticism. They were doing it. Collage of 12 coat of arms of the flood ancestors. Come on, people, now. They did it. You did it. The theory of circulation of the blood. No, we thought we covered that Michael Servetus did that. Yeah, so we're wrapping it up. He's new, that's what the question mark was for. Throw in gang signs. Big time gang signs. Who is this guy again? Robert Flood. And they invented this. This is their thing. That's what they like. Thought you'd like to see that picture one more time. This is the flat Earth with some sort of being a disc held on a dome and knots. I think you can believe in the flat Earth because it's logical. That doesn't mean you're saved at all. And, sorry, they tried to sex it up, not me. What's this? Timeline of Atlas history. This looked fun, but I didn't do it too much. The Hudson Bay, they own New York. You'd escape from New York, LA. You think you're going to outsmart these people in the city? That's what you believe? Our country was the Hudson Bay Company, man, and they still own Saks Fifth Avenue to this day. They deeded this shit to the United States. They were in it with the Confederates. You wanted slaves, you went through them. Order in the council is a type of legislation in many countries, especially the Commonwealth realms. In the United Kingdom, this legislation is formally made in the name of the monarch by and with the advice and consent of the privy. And that's what they were. Hudson Bay. Order in the council. British overseas territories. It was Hudson Bay. It was the other corporations. But those days had to end. Why did they have to end? You know already, because Satan was forbidden to deceive the nations. They didn't have nations. They had to corrupt the individual states and wait. And now they've got the United Nations. They've got them right where they wanted. This bullshit started in 1807 because these guys came out. Whoever made us into white albinos that got bred to rule the world, and now we messed it up and we need nations because now they're all mad at us because we faked bomb Japan and faked a fiat dollar, petrodollar, and the rest of the world is saying, well, let's go there. That's the melting pot of the whitest of the white, and then we'll go after Europe. And Russia and China are going, and Japan are going like, hey, they just called us white. We're not really white. They hated us too. So there it is. In less than 2 hours, your world, as it is and as it's going to be, because God made this a flat earth nation. He's proven to us the golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. After the 1,000 years, Satan gets loosed. We're that orphan trained mess after 1958 trying to figure out, I wonder why my mom and dad, their mom and dad never got put in the insane asylum. They must be really good at towing the effing line. Well, until my dad and some of his brothers, and they raised me and a few others, that's pretty much the way it was. It's the way it is in this world. At least that's what me and my friends will tell you. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriba, Dirty. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamai.